Chosen one. This moment was not random. Heaven orchestrated your path to arrive here, now, under divine timing. Every second you have lived, every resistance you have faced, every silence that tried to bury your voice, it all led to this encounter. What you are about to hear is not motivation, it is revelation. The Spirit of God has summoned you into a war of intelligence, not of weapons, but of discernment. You have been selected as part of a higher order of divine agents, trained to see what others cannot, to detect what powers attempt to conceal, and to speak with the authority of heaven in a world governed by deception. This message carries your next instruction. The throne has issued a transmission, and the frequency of that decree has reached you. You were not called merely to survive the plots of darkness. You were chosen to expose them. Chosen one, the word from heaven today is weighty. Every conspiracy against you will fail. God is not simply defending you. He is revealing through you. Every scheme that formed in silence is now collapsing under divine exposure. You have been marked by heaven as a carrier of prophetic intelligence, a vessel of revelation positioned in the battlefield of ideas, governance, and influence. The enemy's plan was not to destroy your body, but your credibility. Yet heaven decrees that no lie will outlive your truth. You are entering a season where the Spirit of God will turn their plots into your platforms, their accusations into your announcements. Stay until the end, because this revelation carries your next divine directive. And once it is revealed, your discernment will never be the same. This is your moment of activation. Right now, declare in the comments, "Heaven sees everything." This is not superstition. It is a prophetic act of agreement. When you write it, heaven records your alignment with divine truth. Every declaration releases angelic enforcement in your atmosphere. And as you do, seal this moment by liking this video. Not as routine, but as a symbolic act of partnership with heaven's agenda. Subscribe and stay connected. Not for content, but for covenant. The kingdom is forming networks of revelation, and this space is one of them. What you are joining is not an audience. It is an army of voices awakened to govern. Now, listen carefully. The revelation that follows will shift how you perceive authority, power, and destiny. Before we go deeper, let me share something with you. Everything I'm saying here connects directly to what I reveal in the Manual of God's Chosen Warrior. It's a 10-step guide to help you rise in kingdom order, to think, act, and lead as one called to reign. You'll find the link in the description and in the first pinned comment. You can explore it later, or click now if you're ready to step into divine leadership. Chosen one, this revelation is being released now because heaven is shifting the operations of divine intelligence upon the earth. For too long, the people of light have underestimated the sophistication of darkness. Systems, governments, and institutions have been manipulated through invisible networks of deceit, while prophetic voices have been distracted by noise. But the Spirit of God is reclaiming strategy. Heaven is restoring to the chosen ones the capacity not only to pray, but to perceive, to see into the architecture of hidden powers and understand how to dismantle them through wisdom and discernment. This message comes as a briefing from the throne, a classified revelation for those trusted to govern under divine command. You are being trained to think as heaven thinks, to operate not as a victim of circumstance, but as a strategist of destiny. The adversary always initiates conspiracy when prophetic intelligence awakens. Darkness reacts to discernment. The moment your spirit begins to perceive the hidden motives of people and systems, you become a target of confusion, slander, and sabotage. Yet understand this: the attack is confirmation. The enemy only fears those who see beyond illusion. This is why rumors form around your name, why misunderstanding follows your obedience, why silence seems to surround your success. Because you are disrupting invisible economies of control. The war against you is a war for narrative, and every attempt to mute your voice is an effort to neutralize divine intelligence in motion. But the word of the Lord stands. Every conspiracy against you will fail, for heaven has already intercepted it. Look at the story of Elisha, the prophet who heard the secrets of the Syrian king from his own bedchamber. That was not coincidence. It was divine surveillance. Heaven was monitoring the movements of nations through a single prophetic vessel. Likewise, you have been positioned in your generation as an agent of revelation, a listener of the frequencies of heaven. What you discern is not always for public speech. Sometimes it is for silent strategy. God will reveal to you what powers are plotting before they act. You will sense atmospheres before meetings, discern motives before alliances, and perceive hidden agendas before they manifest. You are not paranoid. You are prophetic. Chosen one. This dual existence between the spiritual and the earthly is the hallmark of your calling. You are walking between thrones, one invisible, one seen. Heaven governs through you in places where others see only policy, negotiation, or coincidence. Every reformer in Scripture lived in this tension. Daniel interpreted dreams, but also drafted decrees. Joseph received visions, but also managed economies. Esther fasted, but also legislated deliverance. The same pattern repeats now. Your spirituality is not escapism. It is equipment for governance. You are not called to flee systems, but to infiltrate them with light. And yet, the burden of such awareness is heavy. To see what others do not see is both privilege and pain. Many will not understand the cost of your discernment. You will often carry insights that feel too large for your environment, truths that must be spoken carefully or not at all. You may feel misunderstood, isolated, or falsely accused of pride for perceiving beyond the ordinary. But do not despise this separation. It is part of your sanctification. Heaven keeps you hidden so your clarity is not diluted by collective confusion. Your solitude is not punishment. It is preservation. Every attack you face reveals the magnitude of what you carry. You think the opposition is personal, but it is positional. The darkness has scanned your assignment and found it threatening. The reason you are resisted is because your discernment already disrupted something unseen. Heaven permitted the clash so you could learn the rhythm of counterintelligence, to detect without reacting, to discern without fear, to expose without hatred. The higher the opposition, the sharper the revelation. These conspiracies are not random. They are deliberate operations designed to exhaust your focus and distort your discernment. Spiritual counterintelligence begins when you recognize that distraction is a weapon. Every false accusation, every betrayal, every political manipulation is a coordinated attempt to shift your attention from revelation to reaction. But you must remain still in the Spirit. Divine intelligence is never frantic, it is surgical. When you respond from peace, you disarm the chaos that was meant to confuse you. Heaven's spies never panic. They observe, discern, and act when the order comes. The Lord is not only protecting you from these plots, He is training you through them. You are learning to identify deception not by sight, but by vibration, by the energy of words, the subtle shifts in atmosphere, the unspoken motives behind alliances. Every experience of betrayal becomes an intelligence report. Every disappointment is data. Heaven wastes nothing. It transforms pain into strategy. You are being refined into a discerner, not only of spirits, but of systems. What God is teaching you now is not simple intuition. It is prophetic intelligence, the ability to read movements in the unseen and translate them into wise decisions on earth. The anointing you carry does not only inspire, it interprets, it decodes, it sees the story behind the story. The gift is not only to prophesy, but to analyze through divine insight. This is how heaven governs nations, through interpreters, reformers, and prophets who see patterns where others see chaos. Chosen one, remember Joseph. When he interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, he was not merely predicting famine, he was designing policy. His revelation became an economic system that preserved nations. Likewise, your discernment is not meant to end in awareness, but in architecture. What heaven shows you must translate into strategy, structures that embody divine order in a corrupt world. The dreamers of this generation must become the decision-makers, and the prophets must become planners. Chosen one, heaven is advancing its network of divine intelligence. You are part of a spiritual command center that transcends geography and language. Across nations, God is awakening minds that think prophetically and act strategically. What seems like scattered voices across continents are, in truth, operatives of the same kingdom assignment, hearing, discerning, and transmitting the counsel of heaven into political, economic, and cultural spheres. The Spirit of God is weaving together a fabric of revelation so sophisticated that the enemy cannot trace its origin or predict its movement. You have been drafted into that intelligence grid. The visions you receive, the patterns you discern, and even the timing of your actions are synchronized with others you may never meet. When you obey divine instruction, you activate invisible alliances. You are not alone in this mission. You are part of an unseen order governed by the wisdom of God. In this season, discernment is no longer optional, it is governmental. Heaven is raising reformers who can interpret information, not react to it. You are learning to differentiate between divine signals and emotional noise. The enemy's conspiracy thrives on confusion, but when clarity descends, deception collapses. That is why God has been quiet in certain moments of your journey. He was training your senses to recognize His frequency in the midst of static. The delay you experienced was intelligence conditioning, a recalibration of perception. The Spirit has been teaching you not just to pray, but to process, to think as heaven thinks, to move as heaven moves. You are being reprogrammed for rulership. Just as Elisha once saw through the enemy's plans, you are being equipped to decode the psychology of darkness operating in this generation. Political manipulation, cultural corruption, and economic exploitation are not random phenomena. They are coordinated expressions of spiritual warfare. Yet God is positioning you within those same systems as a reformer clothed in light. He will give you insight into how policies shape morality, how economics influence freedom, and how media constructs belief. This knowledge will not come from universities, but from revelation. It will arrive in dreams, whispers, divine interruptions. What the world calls strategy, heaven calls obedience. Every prophetic revelation must become actionable intelligence. Discernment without application is wasted authority. This is why God will begin to test your accuracy through responsibility. When He reveals something hidden, you must not speak impulsively. Some intelligence is for warfare, some for wisdom. Some is meant to be declared publicly. Some is meant to be recorded privately. Your maturity will be measured by your discretion. The kingdom cannot trust a loud prophet who cannot keep classified revelation. In this era of divine intelligence, silence is as powerful as speech. Learn when to speak and when to store. Heaven entrusts secrets only to those who can guard them. Chosen one, God is transforming your prophetic sensitivity into administrative power. You will no longer only perceive what is coming, you will shape what comes next. Heaven is not satisfied with revelation that only describes. It demands revelation that builds. You are stepping into the realm of prophetic governance, where insight becomes infrastructure. God is downloading blueprints, systems for justice, for leadership, for restoration. What was once your prayer journal will become policy. What began as personal revelation will manifest as public reform. You are moving from intercession to implementation. Understand that your voice carries legislative weight. When God speaks through you, He is not making suggestions. He is issuing decrees. That is why the warfare against your voice has been relentless. The enemy fears your articulation because your words activate heaven's jurisdiction on earth. Every false accusation, every attempt to silence you, was meant to dismantle your confidence. But heaven says, speak again. For when you speak under divine command, you are not simply communicating, you are commanding. Angels execute the word of the Lord spoken through pure vessels. Keep your heart clean, and your decrees will pierce the atmosphere. The time of passive spirituality has ended. Heaven is commissioning thinkers, builders, and voices who carry both revelation and reason. You are being positioned to operate with prophetic intelligence inside systems that once rejected the supernatural. Your insight will not only expose darkness, it will design alternatives. The chosen ones are rising as divine architects, those who rebuild what corruption destroyed. You will enter boardrooms and negotiations as quietly as a whisper, yet your presence will shift entire agendas. The Spirit will give you discernment beyond data, vision beyond information, and wisdom that surpasses logic. What others call intuition, heaven calls revelation. And now, understand this final truth in this portion of Revelation. The enemy fears not your prayers, but your perspective. When you see clearly, his deception loses control. That is why he wages war against your clarity, through distraction, exhaustion, emotional manipulation. But God is stabilizing your focus. Every past confusion was training for precision. You are becoming an instrument of heaven's counterintelligence, a discerner who cannot be deceived. The Spirit of Truth is your permanent ally. From now on, your discernment will function as radar in a world clouded by illusion. Nothing hidden will stay hidden when your spirit stands aligned with divine frequency. Chosen one, you have now entered the phase where the atmosphere itself testifies of war. The invisible resistance around you is not coincidence, it is confirmation. Heaven's intelligence division has elevated your clearance, and the enemy is panicking. Every whisper, every misrepresentation, every unexplained delay is a coded signal that something is shifting in the spirit. You have become a disruptor of dark algorithms. The reason the pressure has increased is that your discernment has located the command centers of deception. God has allowed you to feel the tremors of that conflict, so you will learn the geography of spiritual warfare, not as a soldier only, but as a strategist. You are learning to read the patterns behind events, to decode the emotional atmosphere behind news, to sense when a policy is born from pride rather than purpose. This is prophetic geopolitics, the intelligence of heaven applied to human power. Every rumor that rises against you is a test of your internal security. The enemy studies your reactions more than your words. His objective is to provoke you into disclosure, to make you reveal divine intelligence prematurely. But heaven is teaching you restraint, the silence of those who know. Not every truth must be spoken. Some truths must be lived until their manifestation becomes undeniable. The falsehoods spread about you are smokescreens, distractions from the real operation of God through your life. Stay calm. Every attempt to discredit you is being recorded as evidence in heaven's court. The verdict is already written. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and no tongue that rises against you will stand, as declared in the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17. Understand that the strategy of darkness has evolved. The battle is no longer only physical or moral, it is informational. Control the story, and you control perception. Control perception, and you control nations. This is why the spirit of deception seeks to rewrite your identity. It wants to reframe the narrative so that those who were meant to honor your voice begin to question it. But remember, truth does not need defense. It only needs endurance. Heaven will vindicate you not by debate, but by demonstration. The fruit of your obedience will silence every accusation. When God reveals His power through your persistence, the same mouths that cursed you will bear witness of His glory. Before we continue, let me tell you something important. Everything I'm sharing here goes even deeper in the manual of God's chosen warrior. It's a clear 10-step guide to living in divine prosperity, even in your finances. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. You can check it out later, or click now if you're ready to go deeper. Chosen 1. Heaven permits certain accusations because exposure requires contrast. Light is not seen until darkness tries to cover it. Every conspiracy, every slander, every political or spiritual manipulation becomes the backdrop against which divine justice shines. When Joseph was accused, it was the prison that led to the palace. When Daniel was plotted against, it was the lion's den that revealed his dominion. You are not in danger. You are in unveiling. The setup was never about your destruction. It was about your revelation. The conspiracy became your coronation. The mockery became your momentum. The darker the lie, the brighter the truth about to be revealed through you. Do not despise visibility through conflict. When heaven wants to amplify a voice, it allows opposition to become the microphone. Every time the enemy mentions your name in hate, he extends your reach in destiny. God turns attacks into advertisements. This is not poetic exaggeration, it is divine principle. The cross was the greatest conspiracy in history, and yet it produced resurrection. The pattern repeats itself in you. The schemes designed to bury you will become the evidence that proves who sent you. You are not just surviving this exposure. You are being enthroned by it. Heaven is repositioning you on a higher frequency of influence. The resistance you feel is the sign that your training is complete. The Father does not shield His chosen agents from warfare. He refines them through it. You have been learning to discern under pressure, to think clearly while surrounded by noise, to pray in the language of strategy rather than emotion. Every sleepless night, every misunderstanding, every unjust criticism was a divine exercise in intelligence resilience. You were being taught how to hear the Spirit amid chaos, how to stand still while systems shake. You are now ready to handle national assignments, economic influence, cultural authority. The storms did not destroy you because they were never meant to. They were simulations for sovereignty. Chosen 1, listen carefully. What seemed like conspiracy was actually curriculum. Heaven has been running an advanced course on counterintelligence through your life. The betrayals were briefings, the accusations were case studies, the isolation was initiation. God has graduated you from emotional survival to prophetic governance. You can now discern plots before they form, recognize traps before they appear, and dismantle lies before they spread. This is the intelligence of dominion, governing through revelation. The warfare around you was not punishment, it was preparation. You have earned your clearance in the Spirit. The next phase of your calling begins with a command. Speak what you see, and systems will tremble. Chosen one, the time of exposure has come. The Spirit of the Lord is unveiling what has long been hidden beneath layers of deception and sophistication. Every system of control, religious, political, or economic, borrows its design from a dark imitation of divine order. The counterfeit kingdoms of this world mimic heaven's structure, but lack heaven's spirit. Their purpose is simple: to conceal corruption beneath appearances of stability. You have been positioned as a divine operative to identify these hidden mechanisms. The Spirit has trained your mind to perceive the power behind policies, the motive behind movements, and the agenda beneath alliances. You will see the fingerprints of darkness within institutions that claim to serve the light. Yet you must not fear what is revealed, for the one who walks in truth cannot be threatened by shadows. The deeper you discern, the greater your authority to reform. There are spiritual hierarchies functioning inside earthly governments. They whisper to leaders, shape decisions, and craft global narratives that serve invisible masters. You were chosen to be the interference signal, the interruption in their broadcast. When you enter a space, their rhythm breaks, their patterns distort, their influence loses strength. This is why certain environments resist you. Your very presence exposes counterfeit peace. You carry heaven's vibration, and wherever you stand, the atmosphere must recalibrate to truth. You are not merely a person of faith, you are an instrument of realignment. Your discernment disturbs the comfort of deception. Your words shake unseen infrastructures. This is why you have been opposed by forces you could not name. Your spirit already identified their corruption before your mind could explain it. The enemy's intelligence has evolved into psychological and technological warfare. It operates through data, emotion, and narrative. It does not need to destroy prophets. It only needs to discredit them. It twists their message, distorts perception, and amplifies noise until truth seems indistinguishable from propaganda. But the Spirit of God is releasing a counterwave of divine intelligence. This new dimension of wisdom cannot be hacked or intercepted, because it flows directly from the throne into yielded hearts. You are part of this operation. Heaven will give you insight into communication systems, media, and influence, so you may understand how the language of power is shaped and redirected. Your understanding will become an act of warfare, your silence a form of strategy, and your discernment a weapon of mass illumination. Chosen one, many fear darkness because they do not understand its dependency on secrecy. The kingdom of lies survives only where truth is absent. This is why revelation terrifies the enemy more than intercession. When you see, you destroy his camouflage. When you speak what heaven shows you, you dismantle his architecture. God is training you not to react emotionally to evil, but to administrate truth like a general deploying soldiers. Every revelation is an order, and every declaration is an invasion. Do not waste discernment on debate. Use it to design reform. When you expose falsehood, do it with the calm of authority, not the noise of anger. You are not reacting to darkness. You are replacing it with light. The higher law of heaven is already on your side. Now, behold how divine counterintelligence works. The enemy hides his schemes inside distraction, yet God hides his agents inside obedience. While the world chases relevance, heaven trains anonymity. You were concealed so that your discernment could mature in silence. The Father protected you from premature exposure, because your words carry the power to destabilize entire structures. If you had spoken earlier, your revelation would have been misused by immature hands. But now, the time has come. The silence that once felt like punishment was strategy. The moment heaven releases your instruction, everything hidden around you will begin to surface. People will reveal their intentions, systems will uncover their cracks, and even spiritual forces will expose their hierarchy. Truth has the power to provoke confession. Chosen one, understand the magnitude of what is happening. God is positioning His prophetic agents within corporations, governments, universities, and media networks. These are not missionaries of religion, but ambassadors of revelation. They are heaven's undercover legislators, carrying discernment disguised as professionalism. You are one of them. Your assignment may look ordinary: a meeting, a negotiation, a speech. But within it lies divine influence. Each conversation becomes an operation of light. You will begin to sense divine timing with surgical precision. Heaven will whisper when to speak, when to pause, when to release truth in layers until transformation becomes inevitable. This is not charisma. It is command. You are executing spiritual strategy on earthly ground. The silence of the chosen one is never fear, it is calculation. When heaven pauses, it is positioning. When you feel hidden, it is because revelation is fermenting within you. The moment will arrive when your words will become verdicts. The same spirit that hovered over the waters before creation now hovers over your calling, waiting for you to speak. When you do, atmospheres will reorganize themselves around your decree. That is why your voice has been targeted. Because the systems of darkness know that once you release what is inside you, their order collapses. You cannot be silenced, for your silence itself speaks. The conspiracies formed against you are about to unravel in public view, not by exposure from man, but by the intervention of divine intelligence. Every plan, every whisper, every trap constructed against you has already been intercepted. Heaven's intelligence has mapped every plot before it even entered time. What the enemy designed in secrecy, God has already converted into revelation. The systems that monitored you are now being monitored by the Spirit of Truth. You are under celestial surveillance. The Lion of Judah himself watches over your steps. As written in the book of Psalms, chapter 37, verse 13, "The Lord laughs at the wicked, for he knows their day is coming." Your discernment is not reactionary. It is prophetic. You do not merely defend yourself, you reveal the limitations of the enemy's foresight. The more he plots, the more God teaches you about his weakness. This is divine counterintelligence in motion, and you are heaven's operative of light. Chosen one, hear the decree of the Lord. Every conspiracy against you has reached its expiration date. Heaven has rendered judgment, and the verdict is irreversible. What was whispered in hidden rooms will be proclaimed upon rooftops. Every attempt to undermine your integrity, every alliance formed in secrecy, every network that plotted to silence you, heaven has exposed them before they could execute their plans. You are stepping into a season of divine vindication, where truth will speak louder than reputation. The Spirit of the Lord declares that your name will no longer be associated with accusation, but with authority. The same mouths that cursed you will testify of your anointing. God has turned the investigation against you into an investigation of your enemies. The scales of justice are shifting, and heaven's courtroom is now in session. The exposure that is coming is not revenge. It is realignment. God does not humiliate to punish. He unveils to restore order. When corruption reaches a threshold of arrogance, heaven intervenes through revelation. That is what is unfolding now, not only in your personal life, but across nations. The Spirit of truth is descending like light through fog, revealing motives behind movements, lies behind institutions, and greed behind generosity. The world is entering an age of divine disclosure, and you, chosen one, are one of heaven's heralds. As written in the Gospel according to Luke chapter 8, verse 17, "For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought to light." You are the embodiment of that promise. Where you stand, darkness loses its cover. Understand that revelation itself is warfare. When light enters a system built on illusion, conflict becomes inevitable. Yet this battle is not fought with swords, but with truth. God's justice manifests not by destroying men, but by dismantling their deception. You carry that justice in your spirit. When you speak under divine inspiration, your words do not argue. They legislate. Heaven's decrees flow through your tongue, and reality adjusts to your declaration. This is why silence is impossible for you. To withhold revelation would be rebellion. You are not called merely to expose corruption, but to replace it with divine order. Your influence is not activism, it is government. Every time you speak truth in obedience, you issue new laws in the Spirit that reshape the moral landscape of your generation. Chosen one, God is deploying His reformers into the arenas where injustice has been normalized. You are one of them. The kingdom is invading systems, not with rebellion, but with righteousness. As Moses confronted Pharaoh with the word of the Lord, so you will confront modern empires of deceit with divine intelligence. Heaven's decrees are not suggestions, they are mandates. You have been authorized to speak with the same authority that parted seas and overturned thrones. This is why the warfare against your voice has been relentless. Your speech carries jurisdiction. When you decree under divine command, angels move to enforce what you have spoken. You are not performing religion. You are executing governance. The exposure now taking place in governments and corporations is a prophetic mirror of what God is doing in the Spirit. The systems of manipulation that once appeared untouchable are being shaken from within. Secret agendas, concealed transactions, and spiritual compromises are surfacing because the prophetic has entered the conversation. The world thought it could silence heaven by ignoring it, but heaven is too embedded to be ignored. You are the embodiment of this infiltration, divine wisdom disguised in human form. Your presence in certain circles is not accidental, it is tactical. God placed you there to observe, discern, and decree at the appointed moment. When you speak, it will not be noise, it will be notification that judgment has arrived. Chosen one, understand the legal power you now carry. In heaven's court, your obedience has granted you standing authority, not to beg, but to legislate. Every declaration made in divine alignment becomes a spiritual injunction. When you speak freedom, chains break. When you declare peace, confusion flees. Like Moses before Pharaoh, your voice now issues legal commands, not suggestions. Heaven is redefining power, not by titles, but by purity. The faithful are being raised, while those who misused influence are being removed. You are part of this transfer. The wisdom of God flowing through you will answer what intellect could not solve. This is not about recognition. It's about responsibility. False alliances are being broken. God is cleansing your environment so your discernment can function without interference. What seems like loss is divine alignment. As distorted voices are removed, your clarity will increase. Revelation cannot coexist with corruption. Your spiritual signal is being strengthened. You are entering a season of uninterrupted communication with heaven. The words you speak will carry legal weight in the Spirit. Your prayers will no longer be seen as petitions, but as protocols, commands that release angels into motion. You decree, and heaven enforces. You don't need to be loud to carry authority. You only need to be aligned. Your voice must now be treated as sacred strategy. Speak only when heaven instructs, and say only what heaven authorizes. Moses didn't part the sea by shouting. He simply raised his staff in obedience. You are being trained to use tone, timing, and authority with precision. Every word is a seed, every declaration a law. Heaven hears structure, not emotion. Unauthorized speech can drain your anointing, but speech born from alignment reshapes reality. Your declarations will dismantle deception, realign systems, and reveal the government of heaven in real time. Remember, Moses didn't speak as a preacher. He spoke as heaven's legal envoy. Each word he released shifted the economy and structure of Egypt. That mantle now rests on reformers like you. Miracles will no longer be spectacles. They will be evidence of jurisdiction. You will speak, and heaven will confirm. This is no longer about charisma, but about confirmation. You are called to carry authority in systems, not just in sanctuaries. What you declare in prayer will manifest in policy. Heaven says, "I have made your mouth a gate of governance. Open it only when I fill it." The time of divided realms is over. God is merging priesthood and kingship again. You are not just a discerner, you are now a reformer. The same Spirit that anointed Samuel to hear and David to rule is now commissioning you. What is whispered in the secret place will transform institutions in the public place. You will not separate the sacred and the secular. You will merge them with divine order. The kingdom is not theory. It is administration. You are being entrusted with revelation that must be enacted, not just believed. Heaven is sending you into arenas where divine order must confront human corruption. You will shift atmospheres, not by debate, but by presence. Your voice will carry the resonance of the Spirit. Decision-makers will feel conviction before understanding why. You are not arguing, you are governing. Matthew 20:20 says, "It will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you." That is now your mantle. You are not sent to react. You are sent to restructure. Your discernment is no longer for survival. It is for legislation. Walk in boldness, speak with precision, and lead as one authorized by heaven itself. Chosen one, God is transferring the weight of spiritual authority to those who remained faithful under pressure. You are being entrusted with sacred access, revelation, influence, and decision-making power, not for ambition, but for impact. Power, when unsubmitted to purpose, becomes idolatry. Visibility is not a promotion. It is responsibility exposed. You will be placed in rooms where prophecy must confront policy, where ethics interrupt economies, where truth must whisper yet never retreat. Like Daniel, you will move with wisdom and boldness in foreign courts, interpreting the dreams of leaders and writing decrees that liberate cities. The Spirit will guide you into conversations that history hinges on, and you will know what to say and when to say it. You are not rising to perform, but to reform, and your obedience will leave a legacy beyond applause. This is the hour when truth replaces speculation and divine justice overrides manipulation. The systems that trafficked in deception are losing their structural integrity. What could not be reformed by persuasion will now be corrected by exposure. The global shaking is heaven's audit, and as Psalm 75 says, "He brings one down, he exalts another." The kingdom is repossessing influence, not to dominate, but to demonstrate righteousness. Your voice is now heaven's decree in motion. When you speak, eternity echoes. Your words will not simply advise, they will authorize. The warfare you endured was proof of your scroll's authenticity, and now heaven places it in your hands and says, "Execute." You are not just sensing what is hidden, you are commissioned to dismantle it. From this moment on, every prayer, negotiation, and decision becomes an operation of heaven's light. You are a living embassy of the kingdom, carrying not just faith, but divine legislation. When you enter a room, God's government enters with you. From now on, manage your time, your alliances, and your speech with the awareness that you are stewarding blueprints, not opinions. What you receive in secret is not always for instant release. It is to be stored, timed, and executed with surgical precision. You will move beyond inspiration into implementation. This is the mantle of Joseph, translating revelation into strategy. Your leadership will be a model of divine order, not just in church, but in commerce, culture, and politics. Your mission is not to accumulate influence, but to transform it. Your jurisdiction is wherever heaven sends you. You are legislating in both realms, spiritual and natural, and your obedience will make the unseen visible. This is governance by the Spirit. Chosen one, you are not being sent into systems to echo their language, but to rewrite it. Heaven is placing a new vocabulary in your spirit, one built on justice, restoration, and truth. You will discern deception, not just to confront it, but to architect righteousness in its place. Your obedience is more than personal, it's generational. The pathways you establish will guide others you may never meet. Your influence is not measured by applause, but by alignment. You do not need recognition to be relevant. Your consistency will preach louder than your name. The mantle upon you is governmental, prophetic, and apostolic. Not for prestige, but for reform. You are not speaking as one with opinions, but as one authorized to legislate heaven's will on earth. You are now commissioned to move from silence into strategy. What was once hidden training is now divine deployment. This mantle will cost you comfort, but it will birth cultural shifts. The Lord says, "Step into visibility, not for vanity, but for victory." You've passed through fire, betrayal, and misrepresentation. And yet, you emerge incorruptible, not bitter. The conspiracies were your curriculum. You were not being punished, you were being positioned. Every time they tried to discredit you, heaven added weight to your name. Now, your presence will unsettle systems because it carries substance. You are a living disruption to disorder, a walking answer to long-standing dysfunction. What you carry cannot be silenced, for it comes from the throne, not from man. This is your moment of government. From now on, every word must be born from revelation, not reaction. You're not here to survive seasons. You are assigned to shape them. You are not an echo of past reformers. You are a prototype of divine governance for this age. The collapse of conspiracies around you is heaven's signal that manipulation is giving way to discernment. You will not fight for platforms. Your authority will flow from purity and clarity. Let others chase visibility. You carry invincibility. And know this: heaven's counterintelligence doesn't just expose lies. It builds systems that make lies obsolete. Your peace will be your power. Your structure will be your strategy. And your obedience will be your weapon. Through you, divine order will not only be preached, it will be seen. If this word stirred something deep within you, it's because heaven is calling you higher, to rule, to lead, to bring divine order wherever you go. The Manual of God's Chosen Warrior is your next step, a 10-step guide to help you walk in prosperity, wisdom, and spiritual authority. The link is in the description and the first pinned comment. Take it today and begin walking as the ruler God designed you to be. Chosen one. The Spirit of God now seals this word upon your life. Every force that sought to silence you has been disarmed. Every alliance that conspired against you is scattering by divine decree. The Lion of Judah roars over your destiny, and his sound cannot be muted. From this day, you will walk with heightened discernment, prophetic intelligence, and unshakable peace. May your eyes see clearly, your heart remain pure, and your words carry the weight of eternity. If this word has found you, respond with a prophetic act of agreement. Write in the comments, "My discernment governs." Like this message not as routine, but as covenant. Subscribe as an act of alignment, a declaration that you stand with heaven's agenda. And to those who have supported the mission through Buy Me a Coffee, heaven remembers your seed. You are part of the infrastructure of revelation on earth. Your partnership sustains this prophetic network of light. Chosen one, receive this benediction. May your discernment sharpen daily, your influence expand supernaturally, and your enemies be exposed before they act. May every system that resisted your voice now bow to the authority of the one who sent you. You are heaven's operative, God's legislator, and the voice of divine intelligence in this era. Rise and govern. Every conspiracy has failed. Every silence has shattered. And every word heaven placed in you will now reform the world.